Pan-Africanism is really said to start with somebody named Paul Cuffey. Anybody know who Paul Cuffey is?
Yep.
Paul Cuffey was a half Native American and half black man from America who was actually free, and he was from Pennsylvania. Paul Cuffey. Paul Cuffey did work. I like to allow people to picture this scene. We have a whole bunch of slave ships with our African family members coming to it. Can you prove that? Austin, mute for me, please. So you have a whole bunch. I want you to picture a scenario. If you have a whole bunch of slave ships coming to America and one ship going in the other direction, and that ship is owned and captained by a black man, and the whole crew was black. That person on that ship was a person named Paul Cuffey, C-U-F-F-E-E. And obviously by the name, you can see where he may have been from, and he would be Ashan or Ashanti or Akan, right? So that is Paul Cuffey right there. That person that people who may be looking at it sees on their screen. The reason that he is said to be the founder of Pan-Africanism is because of what he did. Now, what did he do? Paul Cuffey had a ship. One of them in particular was named the Traveler. And the Traveler ship actually went from America with products that were built by the hands of Africans in America, and he took those products to Europe for one and sold those goods. While he was in Europe, he would get goods from there, and he brought those to West Africa. And then he would take the products from West Africa, and some of them he would bring back to the Americas to sell. This is the concept of Pan-Africanism that people began to see. So you'll see a lot of references to somebody around the 1770s or 1780s, and that person is Paul Cuffey, right? So what he tried to do in West Africa, unfortunately, our brothers and sisters were selling some of us. Some of them were selling. So he tried to convince the people there to stop selling other Africans and get involved in a trade where they could sell other of their materials, and he could take them to Europe, and he can get products from Europe and bring them to the Americas. As you can see, when you trace your fingers, this forms a triangle. He was trying to reverse the triangular trade which the Europeans had us entrapped and enslaved in. This is why he is known as the father of this, or as associated with being the father of this. This occurs around 1783, and if you know anything about our history, this is around the end of the American Revolutionary War. So what did he do? There were people who fought on both sides of the American Revolutionary War that were African or black or of African descent, however you want to describe them. Some were called black loyalists, and they fought on the side of Britain. Others fought on the side of America and were called patriots. The ones that fought on the side of the British and were loyalists, when the British got kicked out in 1783, they took those Africans with them. Some of those Africans they took to Canada. So we lived in Canada. A good portion of us lived in Canada at this time. The conditions were not best. I'd like to throw in, by the way, this is where they said we are getting credited for inventing the game of hockey, and in particular the slap shot. And you can look up the Colored Hockey League to find out our influence in hockey. So it's not their sport. We could take that back too if we want, but that's just a side note. So with that said, you have people who are in Nova Scotia in particular. They are not happy being in a much colder environment than they already were, and they wanted to return home. Paul Cuffey was trying to work with someone you may have heard of called Oladu Equiano, who happened to be in London or England at the time, because Equiano set up a society, or was influential in setting up a society for those black people who were leaving from the Americas with the British. They were taking some to Canada and others they took to England. There was a bad predicament in England, so they had to set up a society called, I think the exact name, or Sarah, you can look up, is called Society for the Black Poor, because they were in England and they were doing bad. So Equiano, with the help of being convinced by Paul Cuffey, decided to leverage his influence and have something where these Africans could go to. This is what comes along, and the company that had it was called the Sierra Leone Company. Paul Cuffey actually sets up a Masonic type of organization, all black people, nothing to do with Masons. The reason I'm using that because it was that type of society. You can look up something called friendly societies to understand what I'm talking about. So it's not just Masonry like you think. This friendly society was set up so that those people could go to Sierra Leone. So now you had a destination for Africans who were having a struggling hard time in England, as well as those who were free and not accepted in the Caribbean and the Americas. This is in Sierra Leone. This begins your early stages of Pan-Africanism. I will go on, but you can go ahead and continue.
I think you did pretty well there.